Okay, so get this right. Today we're diving into, well, it's the flying saucer craze.
Hmm.
Back when newspapers couldn't get enough of them
Yeah.
and everyone was whispering about, what they might be,
Right, right.
late in 1940s, early 50s, that era,
Absolutely.
we've got declassified CIA files, reports from all over the globe, the good stuff.
Can't get better than that. It's amazing, thinking back then, it's like post-World War II,
Yeah,
huge technological leaps happening left and right,
right.
but also that Cold War tension just kind of hanging over every...
Always there in the background.
Exactly. People looked up
Yeah.
at the sky, and it was this mix of, like, what's possible now, but also maybe what are we in for?
The ultimate mystery, right. And that leads us right into the CIA report, 1950, all about flying discs. But it's based on an article by a German scientist, this Dr. Edward Ludwig.
German. Yeah.
And the article, get this, it was published in Chile, Condor magazine, I think it was called.
Chile? That's a curveball I wasn't expecting.
Chile and Germany. Makes you wonder, right? Like, how'd that connection even happen?
And sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead, you were saying?
Gosh, that the CIA document itself, it's almost funnier than the article. They labeled it unevaluated information.
Oh, really?
Like they didn't know what to make of it either. There's even a handwritten note questioning if the conclusions meant anything important. Classic.
So what does Dr. Ludwig actually say?
Well, a lot of theories, some wilder than others.
Figured.
But he does get into some hardcore aerodynamics, like the Kudik-Yukowski theorem.
Never heard of it.
It's complicated, but basically explains lift on curved surfaces, airplane wings, that sort of thing. So he's at least trying to be scientific about it.
Instead of just like aliens.
Well, he does mention that as a possibility later on, but...
Gotta keep an open mind, right?
Yeah. But yeah, he talks about the Flettner rotor too.
What's that now?
So picture this. Giant rotating cylinders stuck on an aircraft to create lift. They actually tested this stuff back then. Didn't really work out.
Sounds ambitious, at least.
Oh, totally. But Ludwig seems to think it might be how these discs were flying, if they were real.
Makes sense. And of course, can't forget the classic theory.
What a guess.
Secret German tech, now in the hands of the Soviets.
Bingo. Like pouring gasoline on the Cold War fire.
Had to be tempting, blaming it on the Soviets.
Right. Easy scapegoat. But hold on a sec, before we go full conspiracy theory. Gotta mention this other CIA document, 1949.
All right, what do we got?
Total opposite vibe. This Dr. Stone, writing a memo, he's basically throwing cold water on the whole saucer thing.
Really? Skeptical. Huh?
Oh, yeah. Even says he's confused by how many reports there are, but not convinced.
So what's he think they are then?
He goes through it all. Weather balloons? Nah, people's descriptions don't match up.
Okay, makes sense.
U.S. or foreign aircraft. Nope. Says the reported abilities are way beyond anything we had, or anyone else for that matter.
Right.
Guided missiles. Not a chance the tech just wasn't there yet. He's basically Sherlock Holmesing these reports.
Trying to find a rational explanation.
Exactly, which you got to respect that, right? In the face of all this craziness, trying to stay grounded.
For sure, for sure. So we've got advanced German tech on one hand, and it's probably nothing on the other. Quite a range of opinions already.
Just the beginning, though, because 1952 rolls around, and the CIA's stunts. Well, it takes a turn.
Oh, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's like they finally decided, okay, maybe we should look into this a little closer.
Instead of just dismissing it out of hand.
Right. And you even see it in the wording they use. Less flying saucers, more unexplained objects.
Subtly ominous.
Totally. Like they're trying to sound more official, less like they're reading comic books.
So what changed?
Well, this draft we found, National Security Council Directive, 1952, that's a big one.
What's tech?
Basically lays out a plan. The Director of Central Intelligence, he's in charge now. Dedicated program, whole 9 yards to figure out what these UFOs are.
UFOs. See, even they're using the term now. Talk about a glow up.
It's a whole different ballgame now. No more unevaluated information. This is a serious investigation.
Wow, I mean, from what we saw before, they went from 0 to 60 pretty quickly.
Right. The directive even says other agencies got to help the DCI if he asks. Like, they're actually taking this seriously, bringing in the whole team.
No more messing around.
Exactly. And there's this line about avoiding duplicated effort, meaning they were worried about different parts of the government doing their own thing, not talking to each other.
Which, yeah, that never goes well.
Not if you're trying to solve a mystery, it doesn't. Oh, and get this, they wanted a consulting group, like top experts, to make sense of it all.
Smart move. 2 heads are better than 1.
Right. Especially when it comes to flying saucers. But hey, while the government's getting its act together, let's jump back to those eyewitness stories. Tangier, Morocco, 1952.
What happened there?
Multiple people see this cigar-shaped thing. Silvery white, they said, zipping across the sky like it was laid for something.
And what else?
A few minutes later, another object. Blue-green this time, elliptical, same direction. Makes you wonder if it was connected, right?
Maybe they were just flying in formation.
Right. Like, why not? But it's those little details over and over that make you go, maybe there's something to this.
Not just blurry lights anymore.
Nope. Shapes, colors, even how they moved. Like in Durban, South Africa that same year.
Yeah.
2 meteorologists, so these guys knew the sky, saw this white object just cruising along.
Way, really? Meteorologists?
Swear to God. One of them even tracked it with a theodolite. You know, that thing they use to measure angles. These guys were taking notes.
That's wild. So it wasn't just like some random dude who'd had one too many beers.
Exactly. They ruled out balloons, planes, all the usual suspects. Said it was way up there, too, like 6,500 meters.
That's high.
Tell me about it. Okay, get a load of this one. French Morocco. A bunch of people see this glowing disc just hanging in the sky. 12 seconds, they said.
Spook.
Totally. Then, bam, 2 massive streaks of flame shoot out, and it's gone.
Out of nowhere.
Just like that. What does that make you think of?
Some kind of engine, right?
Had to be. Something way more powerful than anything we had back then.
Makes you wonder what you don't know about, even now.
Right. Like, what if they're just better at hiding it these days? But hold on, it gets even weirder. Same area, but now we've got multiple places, Fez, Meknes, Safi, reporting loud explosions.
Explosions? Like what?
That's the thing. No one could figure it out. No visible source, but people heard them, clear as day.
So whatever was making those noises, it was up to no good, that's for sure.
Maybe, maybe not. It's just strange, you know. Then there's Abidjan, Ivory Coast, October 1952. 3 people, family, they're out and about, see this bright green light streaking across the sky.
Another green one. Starting to see a theme here.
Right. They said it looked like it was coming from something. Then it turned red, started zigzagging all over.
What in the world? Okay, now that sounds like they were messing with us.
They described the shape changing, too. Round, flat, oval, even the color, purple to gold, then it shrank, back to green, and poof.
Like something out of a movie.
I know, right? But 3 people saw it.
Yeah.
And they weren't, you know, the type to make stuff up. At least that's what they say in the report.
So what are we supposed to believe all this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, back then especially, people saw things they couldn't explain, so they used whatever words they had.
Fair enough.
Trying to make sense of something totally new. But we got to give credit where credit's due. Even with all this weirdness, you still had this time. He adds a little detail, though. It says maybe they had luminous devices attached.
Luminous, you mean like they glowed?
Right. And with the wind, well, I guess a glowing balloon could look kind of strange.
Okay, I'll give him that, even if it's a little hard to picture.
The point is, even back then, there were different ways of looking at things.
Some folks saw saucers, others saw well-lit balloons.
Exactly. Different perspectives, all trying to make sense of the unknown.
And isn't that what we're still doing today? All right, so we're back diving into the final part of, well, this whole flying saucer mystery. We've gone from skeptical CIA memos to sightings all over the place. Even met a weatherman who really loved his balloons.
He had a point, though. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one.
True, true. But then there's this last report from France, 1952. This one's a doozy.
Oh, yeah, this one's a classic. Gaillac, France. Over 100 people, they said, saw a whole fleet of these things.
A fleet? Hold on, like more than one.
16, according to witnesses. Some cigar-shaped, some like discs, all moving together. Not randomly either, like they were organized or something.
Okay, now that sounds like we're venturing into sci-fi territory. What were they doing, these saucer squadrons?
They were glowing, for one thing. Bluish light, most people said. But get this, some even said they saw stuff coming OT of the objects.
Like what? Little green men?
Not quite. Shining whitish particles is how they described it. Almost like, I don't know, something was falling from them.
Wait, falling onto...
Yeah.
Did anyone save a piece of this space dust?
That's the thing, no one could. Witnesses said it just kind of vanished. Super fast, like it was never there.
Convenient. Poof. Gone. No evidence.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Right. Makes you wonder, what were they leaving behind? Or maybe, what were they collecting? Who knows? But speaking of things appearing and disappearing, that German inventor, Schriever, the one who said he built a flying saucer.
Oh yeah, I've got a saucer in my garage. What about him?
Turns out he wasn't just messing around. This report mentions he actually filed a patent for it.
No way. For a real working saucer.
Well, that's what he claimed. 40 meters wide, elliptical, had motors, could supposedly take off vertically, the whole shebang. He even said it could hit 4,000 kilometers per hour.
4,000. Okay, even if it flew, that thing would be a blur.
Talk about ambitious. This guy, Schriever, he was a former pilot, so he knew his way around a cockpit at least. But still, whether he actually built it and whether it worked like he said, that's a whole other story.
Probably best not to try that at home, right?
Definitely not. But it showed you, back then, it was like reality and imagination were all mixed up. People were seeing things in the sky, no explanation, and others were like, well, why not build our own?
Amazing. So, after all this, digging through these old reports, what have we learned, really, about those flying saucer days?
It's like a snapshot of a time when anything felt possible. People trying to use science to explain it, others saying it was all bunk, and of course the Cold War looming over everything, making everyone suspicious.
Right, like, is it the Soviets? Gotta be the Soviets.
Exactly. But even the CIA, they went from this is nonsense to, all right, get the experts, we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
So clearly something was going on up there, enough to worry even the government.
And yet, so many of those sightings are still unexplained. That's what gets me, what if there really is something out there, something we just haven't figured out yet.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? The mystery's still alive. Were they just overactive imaginations, or was there more to it? That's for each of us to decide, I guess.
Always more to discover, right? Well, on that note, huge thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the golden age of, well, maybe not saucers, but definitely of wondering what's out there.